I've watched a lot of really cool American Girl restorations over the years, and likely if you're on my channel, you have too. So naturally, when I found my dream Caroline doll about a month ago, I started scouring YouTube for a restoration tutorial. This girl was very well loved in her previous life, and I definitely had my work cut out for me. You might be wondering why I purchased a TLC Caroline in the first place. Well, if you look on eBay, you can easily find Caroline, but oh my gosh, these prices. And what? Who is using Klarna to buy a used Caroline? Please don't let me catch you doing this. So when I found this girl in a lot for $180, I was set. I mean, look at that face. She needed me. She needed the love. So I went onto YouTube and checked in with some of my favorite American Girl content creators, and mostly what I found were videos demonstrating how to pin curl Caroline's hair. These instructions go back to Pleasant Company days. And while this is a great method for maintaining her curls, I wanted to learn how to fix her hair if it's already damaged. I found a rewigging video and I thought, well, but what could we do with those hair fibers? Yes, I could go out and buy a wig, but really, I want to be able to figure out how to make this doll new again. I want to figure out how to actually fix the problem that was created in her previous existence. So while all of these techniques and these videos were really well done, I saw a hole, so I wanted to fill it. How do you fix a wig? Well, to fix something, you first have to know its properties, so let's go back to the beginning. I know Pleasant Company tricked us into loving these dolls very dearly and treating them as our best friends, but they are indeed made of plastic. And so, let's look at how plastic is made. Plastic in factories is melted down using extreme heat. It is then shocked with extreme cold to get it to keep its shape. The application of hot and cold air are used repeatedly throughout the molding of, for instance, a plastic bottle. It is stretched while it's hot and then solidified when it's cold. The process is complete when you get your final desired shape. Synthetic hair fibers, like you find in American Girl dolls, start off as a polymer. That melted polymer is shot down into cold water where it solidifies into strands and is then pulled through an extruder for many meters and coiled and flattened and laid to rest. The most common synthetic fibers used in dolls today are nylon, saran, and polypropylene. Kanekalon was the dominant hair fiber used by American Girl and Mattel until Kaneka, the company who produced Kanekalon, ceased its production for toys in the 2010s. Now, for an American Girl doll who is a wigged doll, the production of the synthetic hair fiber is actually just the very beginning. From there, someone has to make the wig itself, which requires a great deal of labor. Very little of that labor can actually be automated. After the synthetic hair fiber has been cut and weighed, it is then placed onto a weft. Depending upon the fiber, after this point, it may go on to treatment. This is the application of certain commercial conditioners, is a way to think of them, to help soften the hair and give it a sheen. From that point, the dried wefts are placed together, combed through, and then if they're going to have a curled texture, they will be wrapped on a metal rod before being placed into a commercial oven. The rods of hair are then baked depending upon the temperature needed for that particular synthetic fiber. After the synthetic fibers are done baking, they are then set to cool. This cooling process allows the synthetic fibers to solidify in this new shape before they are unwrapped and combed out and placed into hairnets. So it turns out that the key ingredients for properly styling a synthetic wig are heat, cold, and patience. And with all of this knowledge under my belt, I felt prepared to finally take on Caroline's full restoration. Off camera, I flat ironed Caroline's hair. The ends of her hair were very broken. They had been pulled and snapped and they became very frizzy at the end. So I wetted down her hair and then ran a flat iron across that in small sections to reshape the ends of the hair and make it soft again. I only flat ironed the areas that were damaged, and this gave me a fresh canvas of hair to work with. Now it was time to brush through her hair. I misted all of her hair and then went through it with a fine-tooth metal comb. I just use a pet comb. They're super sturdy and very affordable. I then used a small perm rod that I have for my fashion dolls and placed that inside of a foam roller. This was about the circumference of a roller that I needed to get the kinds of curls that I wanted on Caroline. I do want to get some larger perm rollers to use for these restorations. I just haven't really found any that I like yet. You can also use end papers on the tips of the hair to prevent any creasing, but the most important part with Caroline's hair is to make sure to place the rollers like this, where they are horizontal to the ground and not vertical. This way the curls will fall nicely once they're set. Make sure that you have 2 temperature resistant dishes. I'm filling one with hot water from my electric kettle, and I'm going to dunk Caroline's curlers into that water and keep it there for 10 minutes. I then prepped the second dish with ice and chilled water. This was actually my second time restoring Caroline. The first time I did it, her curls came out beautifully, but they didn't hold because I didn't keep them in the ice water long enough. I cannot overstate how important it is to time all of this carefully. You can't really go too long, but you definitely can go too short. It has to be a minimum of 10 minutes for each step. So once she had been in the hot water for 10 minutes and the ice water was all prepped, I then carefully moved her over to the ice water bath and placed her in there to wait for 10 minutes. These rollers are very buoyant, so I was using my scissors to carefully make sure that they were getting fully submerged into the ice water, and then once the rollers had cooled off enough, I was able to use my fingers to dunk the curlers a little bit more into the ice water. And then once I knew that everything was really cooling down, really getting nice and icy, I was able to just leave her there for 10 minutes to let those curls fully set. Once Caroline had been in the ice water for 10 minutes, I then took her out. I added an extra layer of towel underneath those curlers to help absorb that extra water, and then I left her to sit for another 10 minutes. And you can, of course, leave her to sit longer. It's just that you want to make sure that you're doing each step for at least 10 minutes. So at this point, I was able to start to unroll her curls, and oh my gosh, look at that bounce. They came out so perfect. She does have a little bump at the very top of her curl that was caused by the perm strap, so I do plan to go ahead and flat iron that out. But these curls came out so beautifully. I'm so happy with them. And at this point, I started the process over because I only have 4 of those foam rollers to work with. I really need to upgrade my equipment, people. That being said, you do just want to focus on one section of the head at a time so that the rollers are getting that concentrated heat and then concentrated cold. Just make sure that the curls that you already worked on don't accidentally end up in any of the water as you're working on those new sections. And again, these curls turned out so perfectly. I am still stunned. Editing Michelle here. I didn't do a proper introduction. So hi, if you're new to the channel, my name is Michelle. I am a writer and artist and lifelong toy collector. And here on the channel, we talk about the intersection of my special interests, storytelling, and toys. If that sounds like fun to you and you enjoy what you see here today, please make sure to like, comment, subscribe, hype the video on mobile. Please, please, please. And thank you all for keeping up with those hypes. It helps the channel so much. And yeah, be ready for new uploads every Saturday. Okay, let's get back to it. And ta-da, here is my finished Caroline. Oh my gosh, guys. This is crazy. So on the left is a photo of my first attempt restoring her hair. And like I said, I was very happy with the curls, but those didn't hold because I didn't let them sit in the cold water long enough. So learn from my mistakes, please. Check out how well these hold. 3 weeks later, I went in, wetted down her hair, and then brushed through it and recurled it with my brush just to prove that I can. That is how good this restoration is. So pardon the rain outside. I wanted to go ahead and wet down and brush her hair just like you would any other American Girl doll to show you guys that this way of restoring the wig actually restores the wig. It doesn't just set curls in place that you can look at and appreciate. It creates new curls that you can actually interact with, that you can brush, that you can style, and that's how it should be. I wetted down her hair and brushed through all of it, and her curls are still there because this way of restoring the wig isn't a temporary fix. It's actually a fix. It's an actual restoration, not a restyle. So really, the important thing when styling doll hair is to remember it's doll hair. It's not human hair. It's plastic and it has to be treated as such. So with that in mind, let's restore another doll. Everyone, this is Wendy. Say hi, Wendy. Hi, Wendy. So Wendy is my 21, and I got her used about 4 years ago. She was about $25 or so secondhand, and I love her, but I was so disappointed when I got my hands on her because her wig was just destroyed in the back. It was super frizzy and super dry, and it just wouldn't hold a style at all. And so once I figured out this restoration method, I thought, hey, I can finally have a 21, my Wendy, that I can really interact with and enjoy. And I wanted to get to show you guys exactly what the flat ironing method looks like on camera when setting up this whole tutorial, and I thought she would just be the perfect candidate for that. So again, you just want to really wet down the area that you're going to flat iron and then go over it very quickly on the lowest setting. Again, on my flat iron, that is 310 degrees Fahrenheit. So once I was done flat ironing her hair, here she was. She looks so much like my 37 with her hair all straight, but I was very satisfied with how well the flat ironing went. A couple of the pieces I had to go over multiple times to get rid of those kinks from the hair being pulled or snapping, but all in all, it turned out really well. I then rolled up her hair in those curls so that they were horizontal, not vertical, and I used end papers for her hair because it is so short, and that was very helpful. I then went ahead and dunked her in the hot water that I poured from my electric kettle and let her sit for 10 minutes. I know that I'm naming off a lot of products as part of this restoration. These are things that I have had and used consistently for years, either for my American Girl dolls or my Monster High dolls or my My Little Ponies, whatever. So I will create a shopping list for you guys, and I'll have the things that I used linked. If you shop from those links, it will help support the channel, but please do not feel at all obligated to utilize the links. Feel free to use them as a jumping off point so you can create your own shopping list. Please thrift your things as much as you can. These heat resistant dishes and the electric kettle both can probably easily be thrifted, as well as the dolls. So once Wendy was done brewing in her hot water, I quickly moved her over to the cold water dish. Last time I used ice, but I ran out of ice, so instead this time I used my Dunkin' cup and just kept it in the fridge all day to make sure that it was nice and chilled, and that worked perfectly for this. Our freezer is like always packed because we live in the middle of nowhere and we have to have our food on stock readily. So we only have one tiny ice tray, and that's not really enough for a full restoration. So chilled water it is. At this point, she was in the ice water for 10 minutes, then rested for 10 minutes. Now it was time to take out her curls. I was worried about how these were going to set because her hair is so short, and I've never seen a 21 in person, so I don't know exactly how long the curl is supposed to be, but I was really happy with these results. I loved getting to see how dramatically different the two sides of her head were at this point, with the super stick straight hair on one side and then these three ridiculous curls on the other. It was just delightfully odd. But then again, so is Wendy. Like, trust me, she's delightfully odd. Another day, another one of my husband's old t-shirts. Let's check on Wendy. Here's Wendy as of this morning. Yes, I already brushed her hair because I saw her this morning. She looked so cute. I just wanted to play with it. So I took her curlers out. I think everything looks great. Let me show you how these curl now. What I really like about this restoration process is that because you're creating new curls and doing it in those smaller sections, you can actually then just grab a piece of hair. So like this there, that's like 2 rollers full from yesterday's restoration. So I'm just gonna brush through this. Everything looks good. And then just give it a little flip. And look, one big curl. Now, obviously you don't want the curl to actually set that way, but what I mean is that everything's moving in the same direction now. And that's what you want. You want the hair to fall naturally. You want to be able to just brush through it and do what you want ultimately. What I want to work on today, I don't know if she had pin curls originally or not. I don't really care about the pin curls one way or another, so I'm not going to go ahead and create those. I did end up with a little crimp up here at the very top of the crown. So I'm going to wet down all of her hair again and then try and work that out very carefully with the flat iron. That's gonna bug me otherwise. This whole process is the same thing that I did for Caroline. This is the hair restoration process. Flat iron, wet doll hair, quickly and on the lowest possible heat setting. For my flat iron, that's 310 degrees Fahrenheit. Then let the hair cool a little bit, then set it in the rollers, dip in the hot water for 10 minutes, pull that out, then dip for 10 minutes in the ice water, and then pull that out, and then let the hair just rest on a towel for another 10 minutes, and then take out the rollers. That's how you go ahead and do this. Then let the hair set overnight, like don't mess with it or anything. In the morning, you have new doll hair. So anyway, I'm gonna get to work on this young lady. Again, sorry for the sounds outside. There were a bunch of sounds outside yesterday. We had a huge storm yesterday. Now it's just lawnmowers. All right, so let's get to this girl's flat ironing, part 2. And I cannot stress this enough, like not at all. If you want to properly fix a doll's wig, you have to flat iron it. When people talk about a doll's wig being dry and they talk about breakage, that is the ends having been pulled and they snap, which means that essentially the individual pieces of synthetic fiber have been compromised. So the way that you restructure them is with that wet and then the heat. That allows you to soften those broken ends. You're basically reshaping them with that heat all over again. And that honestly makes all the difference. It makes the hair so silky and soft. If you don't want those rough, broken ends, water and a flat iron on the lowest setting. That is the basis for a true wig restoration. From that point, you can leave it straight if you want, or you can curl it, or you can crimp it, or you can make it wavy, or you can put it in braids. Whatever you want to do, it's up to you at that point. But that flat ironing is what makes the hair silky and soft and new all over again. Also, it's just fun. Honestly, to me, working on dolls is so much fun. I've always loved breathing life into old things and making them new again. It's always brought me a lot of satisfaction and it's very calming, which is why I don't like to, put on my filming makeup or get dressed up or whatever when I'm doing a restoration, because it's one of my favorite things to do. So I really like to just enjoy it. So thank you for hanging out with me and letting me just be relaxed and a little bit of a homebody while I put this video together. Also, I was still on bun mom duty. If you were in the comments last week, you know what was going on. So, yep, thank you for your patience. Okay, she turned out so cute. So I have to let her hair dry now, and then we'll see how she turns out. Guys, I'm so happy with her. She's so cute. Again, I've had this doll for like 3 years and she's never really looked like a 21 because her hair was so fried. So I'm very, very happy with how this is turning out. And yes, Caroline is hanging out in the background because she's always like 10 feet away from me now. Okay, all right, well, let's cut to future me. So I was just wrapping up my day and realized that I never actually filmed an outro for this video, so sorry about that. So yeah, let me show you how the girls turned out. So of course we have my Caroline, who I restored a couple weeks ago, and I'm just still really excited about how she turned out. I love that I can still, wet her hair down and brush it and recurl it. Fantastic. Here's Miss Wendy. So this is my 21. I got her maybe 4 years ago and her wig was just absolutely destroyed in the back. The seller did not mention that. And so I've never really done very much with her because I couldn't do anything with her hair other than like throw it up in a ponytail. So anyway, I'm really excited that she's all fixed up and I'm gonna put her little pigtails in. I'm planning to make her her own new outfit. So if you have any suggestions for what I should make for her, let me know. Previously, she was always like my homebody doll, but that was because she was so grody. And now like she's all pretty and clean and has nice soft curly hair and everything. And so yeah, I don't really know what to make her yet. So if you have any suggestions, please let me know and I'll, you know, put up fabric swatches or whatever and you guys can help me pick some things out. But yeah, so I'm very happy with how she turned out. And then just because I had the flat iron out, which I don't generally, look at me, I decided to go ahead and wet flat iron Bridget's hair because her hair was still a little bit frizzy. I restored her using just a hot water dunk because that's usually pretty good for dolls with straight hair. She still has some of those rough ends and the flat iron really helped to smooth that out. Obviously I didn't film that or anything. It was just something that I wanted to do to bond with my doll and just, you know, fix her up a little extra. And I will be opening up some restoration spots in September and October. So if you guys are interested in having me restore your doll as part of that Feeding America drive, just go ahead and let me know. Again, I'm not affiliated directly with Feeding America. This is just a way for us as a community to raise some money for them. So, all right, well, thank you guys so much for hanging out. Let me know if you have any questions about the restoration process down in the comments, and I will see you in the next one. Bye. What is my life?